What is up, everybody? This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. Why? Because nobody really showed me how to fish. I had to learn on my own. And part of this channel is teach people how to do stuff that I've learned how to do that nobody showed me how to do, if that makes any sense. I feel like a fisherman kind of goes in a life cycle. You know, he starts here and he works around and through experience, and he almost comes full circle back to where he started. And by full circle, I mean he walks, he crawls, and then he runs. But then he doesn't have to run anymore to catch the fish, so he can go back to walking. That's what I mean. It's the technique that once you've mastered it, it makes fishing easier and more fun and more consistent. So in this video, I want to talk about the 5 reasons why most fishermen fail at fishing and catching and being consistent. After all of my experience and being around some of the top fishermen on the Gulf Coast, because they come in and out of this office all the time, I want to talk about what I've learned, what they've learned, and kind of how most of these charter fishermen stay consistent with catching fish year in, year out, like clockwork, and you'd be surprised how simple it is. So here we go, guys. I got him, Jack!
Oh, Jack's got one on the tree trunk!
Like this forever. I wanna stay right here with you. Wanna stay right here with you. As the rest we fall.
So the more I'm on the water and the more I'm in contact with some really great fishermen, some of the best fishermen in the Gulf Coast come in and out of my office all day long. And after listening to all those conversations and spending hours in the water myself, I believe there's real like an epidemic in fishing to overthink everything. We think we gotta have this or that or whatever, and we spend hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars on ways to catch these fish. But we fail to like realize they're fish and break it down and be very simple about it. So in the next like 5 to 10 minutes, I'm gonna break down the 5 reasons and 5 things you should really think about when you're getting started to fish or you've been fishing a while. It's basically the life cycle of a fisherman. See all this right here? See this? This is excessive. Way too excessive. This is how out of hand the fishing world can get if you're not careful. And this is on the minimal side. There's this old Bruce Lee quote that says, "Fear not the guy, the man, that practiced 10,000 kicks one time. Fear the guy that practiced one kick 10,000 times." Now, so that brings me to my subject. Brings me what I'm trying to say here. I feel like when we start fishing, we go through this life cycle. You know, in a beginner, you're absorbing as much as you can. You're buying every cool guy fishing lure out there: pink, purple, blue, swim tails, robotic jigs, ones that make sound, all kinds of stuff. But we forget to like conquer the techniques of fishing, the simple stuff. What is fishing? A live bait, a hook, and a line that attaches to it. Or a leader. Those are like the most simple parts of fishing, and it still works today. They've been doing it for like 1,000 years, and it's still working. We've way overcomplicated this stuff. Let me explain. So when I was like a young whippersnapper, my dad he used to teach karate, and he said, even when I was a black belt, he would make me stand in front of a mirror and throw the same punch over and over, hundreds of times in front of the mirror, over and over. One punch, right? One punch. One right hand over and over and over again, so I could see myself do it. So I could get the technique down. And I feel like us fishermen, we don't get the basics right before we try to go get those Alabama rigs, or those crazy spinner baits, or those deep divers, or all these things, and we collect a bunch of junk real fast because the marketing departments on all these fishing joints say, hey, we need them. But you know what? Let me tell you something. I've caught a lot of big fish over the years. Been doing a lot of big fishing lately, both saltwater, freshwater. But this more pertains to saltwater, but it still pertains to freshwater. And those simplistic like techniques of fishing, how to tie a knot, what hooks to use, what kind of line to use, what type of rod and reel combo to use, those things are important. And you really can't go on to slaying tarpon until you got those down. Because what I'm gonna say in this video, everything comes full circle. Because that number 2 thing that I was alluding to is really knowing what you're trying to catch. Like, if I'm gonna fish for a tarpon, I'm gonna do that totally different than I'm gonna fish for a stingray or a speckled trout or a bass in a pond. You gotta know what you're trying to catch, and then you gotta learn about what you're trying to catch, which is number 3. If you're gonna fish for a redfish, you gotta know, does he migrate? What kind of structure does he hang out on? What kind of water columns? Is he in, what time of year, where is he, And really, what kind of bait and things does it eat, because that's what everybody goes to buy. First thing to do is lures. Lures. So let me tell you a story about my fishing experience. When I first started, I read everything. I read every fishing forum. I researched every reel out there. I put a ton of time in figuring out how to catch what was really on the top of my list, a bull redfish. I was obsessed over catching a bull redfish. I lived and slept how to catch a bull redfish. And so I went and bought everything you could possibly think of to think that I might need to catch a bull redfish. I had the special hoogie baits. I had the special Rapalas. I had the best rod and reel combo that I could throw together or find or try. I bought the Lowrance Fish 4. I bought everything for my kayak to catch a bull red. Now, after catching about 100 of them or more, all I needed was a number 4-aught hook, a really frisky white trout that I snagged off of a piling, some mono leader on some 30-pound braid, and a heavy bass fishing rod, and you can catch them all night long. It really wasn't complicated. I think that we just overcomplicate things. When I was obsessed to catch a tarpon, I bought all the swim baits. I bought heavy gear. I did everything you could possibly think of to catch a tarpon. And you know when I caught that tarpon, you know what I caught him on? A little 4-inch pinfish on a 6-aught hook with the same setup I had on the bull red rod, but just a little heavier. I had a Penn 850 with an ugly stick Tiger Light rod, 50-pound braid, some 60-pound mono, and a hook. That's it. Caught the biggest bad boy out there. And you might be saying, hey, that's because you know blah, 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 you know all this stuff. No. After running after these things all summer and making a really complicated thing, I got to do all this stuff, looking at tide charts and all this stuff, I just realized, hey, these dudes like to eat. All the bait fish hang around the pilings on a snorkel reef. I'm just going to go out there and wait for one to go by. He was hungry. He ate it. We got in a fight. I won. It was really pretty simple. And it's really like that on just about any of these fish. If they're hungry and you're in the right place at the right time, they eat it. Hey, Mr. Bird, what's up? Pretty close. Because most of these big game species here on the Gulf Coast, you can literally catch with a live bait, a hook, and with a good leader and the right tackle. That's it. That's all you need to do. Put it right place, right time. Fish's hungry, he's smashing it. And this one I think is really more important than just about any of them, is where are they? You know, in today's world with social media, you can literally, you know, just follow people's Facebook posts or the fishing forums and know like how the fish are migrating up and down the Gulf Coast or wherever you're at. And be like, oh, they're seeing tarpon at the Okaloosa Pier. They're probably gonna be at the Navarre Pier in, you know, a week, 2 weeks. They're gonna be at the Pensacola Pier at, you know, another 2 weeks. So you can kind of say tarpon are coming, or it's like November and you see somebody hammer a big bull red on the 3 Mile Bridge. You know that they've migrated in. And then when people stop catching them, you know they're not on the 3 Mile Bridge anymore. You gotta know where they are. Are they deep? Are they shallow? Are they on the flats? Like, you gotta know where are they? And are they hungry? That's really the main parts. Where are they? And what do they like to eat? And you throw it in front of them, and after they've swam a couple 100 miles, they'll eat about anything. And that kind of stuff has a lot to do with water temperature, time of year, and once you've studied a lot about the fish, you know what he likes. And then you need to know where to find them and how to get there. So topic number 4 is, can you get there? You know, this used to be really hard in the old days, especially when I was young. I never had a boat to go out and just, you know, go to the 3 Mile Bridge under the hump. But with the advent of kayaks, I can go just about anywhere now. So if it's offshore, the tarpon are coming, jack crevalle are in, they're within a mile, got the 3 Mile Bridge, or even on the flats, I can get in my kayak, I can go out and I can find these fish. But once you know where they're at, and you know they're schooled up, or you know that species because you studied them, take your best bait, your best hook, you figure out where they are in the water column, and you let it ride. And if they're hungry, they're gonna hit, and if they're not, you take it to the house, you find a cold one, or you go eat some fried chicken. That's really all it is to fishing. We've overthought it. We've made this stuff way too complex. I mean, saltwater fish usually have some type of thing where it's bridges, rocks, you know, structure, deep water, flats, or just falling contours on a map. Usually the drop-off point just offshore. They run up and down that stuff because why? They get lost if they don't. That was a joke, but they might actually get lost. So my last point is number 5 is when you find your spots, your go-to spots, where you've caught the fish, where you've caught fish, you know, time after time, then you gotta master that spot. Because those dudes will usually hang out and they're really about the same spots, almost the same pilings, year after year. Then you master those spots and you just fish them until you get to where you're consistent. That's all these charter boat guys do. That's all these professional fishermen do. They fish these lakes so much, they fish these bays and bayous so much that they literally know, well, it's February, water temperature's this, they like mullet. They're probably right here, hooked up. That's what they do. I mean, like over and over, client after client, they hammer the same fish in the same spots every year. I mean, tarpon will literally travel the same lines year after year on the beach. How they do it, I don't know. Same with bull reds. They'll usually hang around the same pilings almost, or somebody spooks them on the lights, they go to the next pile. And like, you can usually pattern these guys. But once you've figured out all that, and you've caught them with your live baits and your simple rigs, then graduate to these crazy stuffs like, you know, slinging and running and gunning and all these crazy artificials. But you can usually win with just a handful of baits. You know, top water, a mid-range bait, and a bottom bait, a jig. But don't put it past a pinfish or a perch or whatever on a nice hook running around on a cork. Like, that still works time after time. I just really wanted to make this video for you guys, so if you're out there struggling thinking you gotta have some fancy gear, $1,000 in lures, nobody had that up until recently. I never had that. I remember the first video I watched on how to fish. I got it from Blockbuster, and it was some old dude saying, Wiggler's live bait, a hook, chunk it out there, and he was catching massive fish. Now you gotta have the Kevin Van Dam signature series. You don't really need it. You can just use the others that are cheaper, no signature. But that's all I got, guys. Hope you guys liked the video. Don't forget to comment down below if you've been through all this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys tomorrow.